Your cat isn't just sleeping on your lap because they love you. They're calibrating. That slow blink? It's a calculation of your vulnerability. You aren't living with a pet. You're living with a miniaturized, highly efficient apex predator that hasn't changed its kill code in 10 million years. We tend to view cats as domestic accessories, fuzzy, vibrating roommates that ask for food and ignore our calls. But if you strip away the plush toys and the branded kibble, you're left with a biological masterpiece of evolution. Today, we're going to stop treating your cat like a living stuffed animal and start looking at them for what they actually are: a lethal, high-octane assassin. By analyzing their biomechanics through a tactical lens, we are going to map out exactly how their predatory instincts still run the show, and why failing to acknowledge that inner tiger is probably the biggest mistake you're making as an owner. The Ledger Explorer stands in the center of the living room, armed with a tape measure. He's here to perform a field analysis on the creature currently napping on the sofa, a 10-pound ball of fur. He extends the tape measure toward the cat's hindquarters, attempting to calculate the explosive potential of its vertical leap, but the subject merely offers a languid, unimpressed squint. It's a comedic mismatch, the scientific precision of the explorer versus the fluid, unpredictable lethality of a domestic feline. Let's look at the numbers. The explorer's math starts to get unsettling when he converts the cat's jaw mechanics into pressure per square inch. While a Bengal tiger exerts a crushing force capable of snapping a femur, our domestic house tiger maintains a terrifying ratio. When scaled for size, the domestic cat's bite force is pound for pound just as specialized for severing vertebrae as its jungle-dwelling cousins. The explorer pauses, his pen hovering over the page. He realizes that in a hypothetical arena where physics, rather than politeness, dictates the rules, he isn't the researcher here. He's a target. He's looking at a creature that occupies the predator-to-prey threshold, where the human, despite his size, lacks the requisite reaction time to survive an ambush. We pull up an infographic overlay, stripping away the domestic facade to reveal the internal architecture. There it is, a 95% DNA overlap with the wild felids of the Pleistocene. It isn't just genetic similarity, it's a shared lethal toolkit. Those retractable claws aren't for kneading blankets, they are surgical scalpels. That twitching tail isn't a sign of affection, it's a calibrated balance rod for midair stabilization. The explorer slowly puts the tape measure away, realizing that while he's obsessed with measuring the cat is perfectly content observing exactly where the explorer's jugular is located. As we map out these biomechanical secrets, it becomes clear that we've been living with killers all along. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our deep dive into the stealth protocols cats use to manipulate our household environments. While the explorer's tape measure might suggest we're dealing with a creature of leisure, the feline biological timeline tells a far more aggressive story. This isn't just a pet, it is a micro-apex predator on a high-speed development track. Look at the first 3 weeks of a kitten's life. They arrive essentially as blind, deaf, and helpless bundles of instinct. But by the time they open their eyes, the software is already booting up. Within 6 weeks, the transition from milk-dependent infant to lethal trainee is staggering. This is the murder mitten phase. Observe how their play, the pouncing, the flank biting, the vertical leaping, isn't just cute behavior. It is a series of neurological rehearsals for a life that in the wild would be defined by the kill. They are hardening their reflexes, mapping the physics of their environment, and perfecting the pounce with a mechanical precision. But their most brilliant tactical evolution isn't physical, it's acoustic. Watch the adult cat. Among their own kind, they communicate through pheromones and posture. The mew? That is a custom-coded signal designed specifically for human ears. It mimics the frequency of a human infant in distress. By crying to us, they have successfully hijacked our parental instinct, effectively turning us into the primary providers for their tactical empire. This manipulation is so deep that it borders on the psychological. And yet, this leaves us with a dangerous friction. When we bring these creatures into our homes and deny them the outlet for this programmed hunting cycle, we aren't just making them bored. Inside, their physiology is screaming. A house cat denied the simulation of the hunt experiences a sustained spike in cortisol levels that is nearly identical to that of a captive lion pacing in a cage. We've turned their living rooms into gilded, comfortable, and deeply stressful containment units. If you've ever wondered if your own cat is masking these predatory instincts behind a slow blink, you might want to cross-reference their daily behavior with our Tactical Analysis Handbook, linked in the description, to see just how much of your living room they've actually claimed. While the kitten's developmental trajectory is rapid, the adult feline is a masterpiece of specialized engineering, an organic piece of military hardware masquerading as a living room throw pillow. When we peer through the Ledger Explorer, the cat ceases to be a pet and becomes a complex array of combat sensors. Let's start with the visual interface. When you see your cat's pupils dilate, you aren't just witnessing a response to low light. You're watching the aperture of a high-end optical lens widening to maximize light gathering, effectively switching the system into low-light tactical mode. Simultaneously, that slow, rhythmic twitching of the tail isn't just a sign of agitation, it's a stabilization calibration, a biological gyrosensor compensating for the cat's impending kinetic movement. Now, let's address the most misunderstood tactical maneuver in the domestic arsenal, the belly trap. As we toggle the Explorer's internal mapping, we can see the anatomy of this defensive reflex. A cat's abdomen is their most vulnerable point, housing vital organs protected by little more than skin and fur. When you reach for that soft fur, you are triggering a deep-seated evolutionary alarm. To the cat, your hand is a perceived threat, and their response is a hardwired, involuntary defensive sequence known as the rabbit kick. It's a rapid-fire disembowelment reflex that, in the wild, is designed to neutralize prey in seconds. It isn't personal. It's an ancient software loop running in the background of a domestic shell. Beyond the physical, consider their sensory saturation. If we render the living room through the Ledger Explorer's lens, your familiar space vanishes, replaced by a 3D tactical hunting map. Their whiskers, or vibrissae, are not just hair. They are high-precision spatial sensors capable of detecting minute changes in air currents, effectively mapping the room's dimensions in total darkness. Coupled with sound-dampening ear structures that isolate the specific frequency of a skittering moth or a mouse's heartbeat over the drone of your television, your cat perceives the environment not as a home, but as a live-fire combat zone. Every corner is a tactical advantage, every shadow a potential blind spot. They aren't sleeping on your sofa because they're lazy. They're resting while maintaining a 360-degree perimeter. If you want to see how these tactical maps hold up in different room layouts, make sure you're subscribed. We'll be using the Ledger Explorer to analyze common household danger zones in our next breakdown. When we transition from the cat's biological hardware to their tactical mapping of your living room, the perspective shifts. You see a pet lounging on a sofa. The ledger explorer sees a master cartographer defining an invisible landscape. Your cat doesn't view your home as a collection of furniture, but as a strategic grid of scent-marked waypoints. Those pheromone glands tucked around their cheeks, chin, and temporal regions aren't just for showing affection. Every time your cat brushes their face against the corner of a table or your leg, they are literally uploading their biological signature to the environment. It is a persistent, invisible layer of data that says, this sector is claimed. This brings us to the most contentious point of human-cat relations, the scratching post. We see a shredded piece of upholstery and call it destruction. Your cat sees a mandatory, high-visibility marker of dominance and a vital piece of maintenance gear. Scratching is not merely about claw sharpening, it is a full-body recalibration. It serves as a visual and olfactory flag planted in high-traffic zones, signaling to any potential interloper that this territory is occupied by a disciplined apex predator. When we punish this behavior, we are essentially trying to suppress a cat's fundamental need to affirm their identity within their own tactical zone. However, this drive to dominate territory doesn't just stop at your front door. When domestic cats roam outdoors, their predatory instincts, honed over millions of years, clash violently with local ecosystems. They are the most efficient, invasive hunters on the planet, and their impact on local bird and small mammal populations is staggering. It is a sobering reality. The same creature curled up in your lap is an ecological wrecking ball in the backyard. The ethical challenge for the modern owner is providing ethical enrichment. We must simulate the verticality and the hunt inside the home through cat trees, puzzle feeders, and high-engagement play to satisfy their primitive needs without sacrificing local biodiversity. When you provide an environment that acknowledges their inner assassin, you aren't just housing a pet, you're managing a wild, intelligent force in a way that keeps both your home and the outside world in balance. If you want to see exactly how your own home measures up as a tactical territory, check out our interactive habitat mapping guide, linked in the description below. So, the next time your cat curls up on your lap, purring in that rhythmic, hypnotic hum, remember, you aren't just petting a companion. You're hosting a hyper-efficient, evolutionarily perfect apex predator that has simply decided you're more useful alive and feeding them than otherwise.
Oh no!
They haven't been domesticated. They've just mastered the art of playing house. And honestly, looking at those cold, calculating eyes, I think they know exactly who is really in charge here. Thanks for watching.